It's Tuesday, September 6th, and your coffee break is back on the HAN network. I'm Kate Czaplinski. We've been on a bit of a break during our fall FCAC tour, but we're back in studio with the latest local news, including a Ridgefield student injured during a fight with some Wilton students, pot growing outside of a Connecticut daycare, and a special interview later in the show on chronic pain with an expert from Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan. Frank Granito will have the latest in local sports and a look at the forecast, and Donald Dang joins us later on to take a look back on this day in history. But first, authorities say a New Haven police officer shot a man who had rammed police cruisers after committing 2 robberies. Officials identified the suspect Tuesday morning as 49-year-old Kenneth Palmieri of Branford. Police say he is hospitalized with a gunshot wound to his arm and is expected to survive. Authorities haven't identified the officer who shot Palmieri. The officer, however, was not injured. Police say Palmieri robbed a convenience store in Guilford overnight and later robbed someone in New Haven. New Haven police say Palmieri led city officers on a car chase, but police stopped for safety reasons. Officers say they later found Palmieri at a housing complex where he rammed cruisers before the officer shot him. State police were called to the scene under normal protocols for officer-involved shootings. And a Ridgefield football player was sent to the hospital last Wednesday night after a fight between 2 groups of students, one from Ridgefield and one from Wilton. Wilton police confirmed early last Friday that Ridgefield students went down to Wilton High School as part of a scavenger hunt for seniors. Sources said one of the items on the scavenger hunt was to urinate on Wilton High's football field, and that spurred the conflict. According to the sources, golf clubs and a baseball bat were used to harm the student. The incident began by Ridgefield High School students coming to Wilton playing a game of scavenger hunt, according to Lieutenant Brennan. Because the game was publicized, Wilton students were aware that Ridgefield students would be coming to the field. And while at the field, an altercation occurred where that Ridgefield student was assaulted. Lieutenant Brennan told the Ridgefield Press Friday that the department had not determined the mechanism of injury and cannot say whether a bat was in fact used. Lieutenant Brennan said that the student was taken to the hospital by his parents. The Wilton Police Youth Division is handling that investigation. Officials at Wilton and Ridgefield High Schools have been notified, and as of Friday, there had been no statement released by either school. There have also been no arrests made, and that investigation is still open. And West Haven police found around 600 marijuana plants growing in the backyard of a daycare. According to police, officers responded to 159 Norfolk Street, a licensed daycare, on Friday after being called by state child care inspectors. The inspectors called police when they were denied access behind a tall wooden fence in the backyard, which they found suspicious, according to the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood. Police obtained a search warrant and found about 600 plants, each between 6 and 10 feet tall, growing in a garden in the backyard. City housing inspectors shut down the facility and the daycare license was suspended. State records indicate that the daycare license is registered to Rosalie Miller. Maggie Adair, a spokesman for the Office of Early Childhood, confirmed that Miller is the daycare operator and said that the license is on summary suspension, which Miller can request a hearing to appeal. The state suspended the license because Miller denied those inspectors access to the garden. Police said arrests are forthcoming but did not name any suspects or potential details. And in other news, a traffic stop by state police for speeding ended with 3 arrests after the occupants in the car were found to be in possession of forged credit cards. On Sunday, around 7:48 in the morning, troopers from Troop C in Tolland stopped a car on I-84 for speeding. While speaking to one of the passengers, it was believed that he had provided police a false name. Consent to search the vehicle was granted, and that search yielded 30 fraudulent credit cards with various names on them, multiple gift cards, and approximately $800 in cash. It was determined that the individuals were involved in an elaborate credit fraud scheme. The occupants were taken into custody and transported for processing. Those arrested include 20-year-old Oscar Grant, 26-year-old Amanda Lopez, and 23-year-old Marquise Simpson. Metro North commuters, including those on the Danbury Branch Line and Shoreline East trains, can sign a petition opposing a proposed 5% fare increase scheduled to take effect on December 1st. For Metro North commuters, the fare hike would be combined with a previously scheduled 1% increase, making the total increase 6%. The petition is being circulated by Republican lawmakers. The State Department of Transportation, which announced the fare hike in late July, said it expects the increase will generate $5.9 million. State Representative Gail Lavielle said she and some of her colleagues will be riding the trains over the coming days to collect signatures from concerned commuters. The petition is also accessible online at nofareincrease.com. Public hearings on the increase will take place this month. The DOT is also accepting public comment by email through September 15th at dot.faircomments@ct.gov. And in other news, a Stamford couple was arrested in New Canaan after allegedly causing problems at an event on Friday. Police said that 30-year-old James Stevens and his wife Catherine Stevens, both of 19 Town Street, were taken into custody at Waveney House in Waveney Park on Friday at around 9:55 at night after police say they became disorderly at an event they were attending as guests. Police say James was intoxicated and became aggressive toward other guests, and Catherine was also acting belligerent toward others, police say. James received a misdemeanor summons for breach of peace and interfering with an officer, and Catherine received a misdemeanor summons for breach of peace. Both were released on a promise to appear in court. But let's switch gears now and throw it over to Frank Granito, who I imagine is a little rusty from not doing the weather for a while, Frank.
Well, thank you, Kate. We picked a pretty good day to come back to the studio now, as we will have possible showers scattered throughout the afternoon. On and off periods of sun early on today with an expected high of 78 degrees, and there'll be plenty of wind to go with that. We could see gusts of up to 30 miles per hour all day long. The chances of showers will continue overnight as temperatures will drop down to 70 degrees heading into Wednesday morning. Wednesday, this pattern of on and off showers and sun will continue throughout the day, with temperatures getting their way up into the low 80s. We should start to see things clear up by the late afternoon with partly cloudy skies and an expected low of 70 degrees overnight. Thursday should be a better day, though, with mostly sunny skies and temperatures in the mid to high 80s. Humidity will be on the rise later in the afternoon, as it looks like things will be heating up for Friday with the high school football kickoff coming this weekend, Kate.
All right, sounds good, Frank. Well, we're going to step out for a break. When we come back, Donald Eng takes a look back on this day in history. We'll see if our guesses are right about his history report today. Frank will also have sports coming up after this.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan. And you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
It's time to come back to hometown banking, where people are taken into account, not just balances. Where community comes first. A place where there's more than one kind of interest. Where automation will never replace consideration. Where they not only know your name, they know your dog's name too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Back to school means back to busy, and Stewart's Market can save you precious time by stocking all of your favorite essentials under one roof. For a healthy start to school, we have all the ingredients. Walter Stewart's, your family-owned fresh local market, 229 Elm Street and at stewartsmarket.com.
I'm Denise DiGregoli, the host of The Drive on the HAN Network. Join me Tuesdays for some motivational, intelligent talk with a little humor as we visit with people who live their lives mindfully. Tune in to The Drive live on Tuesdays, 12:30, here on the HAN Network.
You're watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. More than 1.5 million viewers have watched our live sports, news, and entertainment broadcasting since the network launched in August 2015. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273 888-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
We're back on this Tuesday edition of your coffee break on the HAN network. It is September 6th, and it's time to throw it over to Donald Lang to take a look back on this date in history. Don, what do you have for us today? We've been taking bets, and we've heard that all of us are going to be sorely disappointed.
All of you?
Yes.
All of you. Wow. You know what? I'm kind of disappointed in Frank then. But, it was a magical moment, a decade and a half in the making. First, though, we're going to go all the way back to 1522 when the Victoria, the only surviving ship of Magellan's expedition, returns to Spain, becoming the first ship to circumnavigate the world. That's it right there, a replica anyway. The expedition had left 3 years earlier with 5 ships, 265 men. The Victoria alone returned with 18 men on board. But the expedition was considered a smashing success. The Spices of Victoria brought back more than made up for the losses. To 1916, 100 years ago today, the first Piggly Wiggly opens in Memphis, Tennessee. Founder Clarence Saunders had an innovative idea. Shoppers would select the items they wished to buy, then bring them to a cashier, versus handing a list to the storekeeper for the storekeeper to gather. It was the first self-service grocery store. Of course, the concept has caught on now so well that many shoppers actually do without the cashier entirely. To 1991. After a referendum, the name St. Petersburg is restored to Russia's second largest city, which had been known as Leningrad since 1924. The city name was returned to its original by a 54% vote, also coinciding with the first Democratic mayoral election in the city's 300-year history. The city is actually still officially known as Leningrad for 9 days out of the year, when it is dubbed the hero city of Leningrad in commemoration of the World War II siege of Leningrad. If you're not familiar with the siege of Leningrad, be thankful you've got oceans on both sides of the country. Finally, now we go to 1995 for this.
I've seen a lot of things in professional sports, but never in my life have I seen anything like this.
That was Cal Ripken Jr. of the Baltimore Orioles playing in his 2,131st consecutive game, breaking Lou Gehrig's record that had stood for 56 years. That's 13 and a half seasons without missing a game. Amazingly, he then played 501 more consecutive games. To put that into perspective, coming into this season, the active MLB Ironman was Manny Machado, who ended his streak in June at 229 games, about 15 years short of breaking Cal Ripken's record. That is your look back in history for today, and I am Donald Lang.
Don, I only got one right this
Only
time.
one? I think I heard
and I kind of
over this
piggybacked off of everyone else's guess, by the way.
Did you get the Piggly Wiggly? Was that
I did
that
not.
code?
That would have been good, though. Oh, well. Well, getting back to news today. Last week, the Department of Consumer Protection opened its medical marijuana registration system for minors with select debilitating medical conditions so that they can be fully registered by October 1st when a new law goes into effect. They'll then be able to immediately access the medication. The Department of Consumer Protection commended the governor and the members of the legislature who supported this expansion of Connecticut's medical marijuana program. Allowing access for minors with limited and specific conditions brings Connecticut in line with the vast majority of other states that have medical marijuana programs. The conditions that a patient under 18 must have to register for the program include cerebral palsy, cystic fibrosis, irreversible spinal cord injury, as well as severe epilepsy, terminal illness, or uncontrolled intractable seizure disorder. More information on that at eastoncourier.com. But let's throw it over to Frank Granito now for a Nutmeg Sports Update. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. Taking a look back at some of the top stories from this past holiday weekend, we had college football opening up the season, which included the Yukon Huskies and Maine Black Bears on opening night on Thursday night. And what was an exciting start to the Connecticut season, Yukon escaped the Black Bears by a final score of 24-21, thanks to Bobby Poyle's last-second field goal. Quarterback Bryant Sharif led the Huskies' attack with 162 passing yards and 95 rushing yards, and wide receiver Noel Thomas added 9 catches for 70 yards to help the Huskies' offense. UConn will make their way down the East Coast next weekend when they travel to Annapolis to take on the Naval Academy. That game can be seen on CBS Sports at 3:30. Also in action, we had the Pioneers of Sacred Heart, and like UConn, they too were able to come out on top in their season opener against Stetson University. Trailing 14-6 at the half, Sacred Heart scored 12 unanswered points in the second half to come away with a 18-14 win. Quarterback R.J. Knoll threw for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns, and running back Osei Imekaparia scored the go-ahead touchdown on the first play of the fourth quarter for the Pioneers. He was also named the NEC Offensive Player of the Week. Sacred Heart returns home this weekend on Saturday when they host Valparaiso in their home opener at 1 p.m. That's going to do it for this Nutmeg Sports Update. Let's send it back over to Kate.
Thanks so much, Frank. In other news, with funds nearing $82,000 for a local teenager with a brain tumor, a Milford hair salon fundraiser is planned to help close the gap on a $100,000 sought to help the family with medical bills. 19-year-old Danielle Kemp of Milford, a foreign high school graduate and currently a Division I student athlete at Stony Brook in Long Island, is undergoing treatment for a brain tumor. An avid softball player since childhood, Danny was playing softball for the Brakettes this summer when she got hit by a pitch in the helmet during an at-bat. After a few weeks, she went to the doctor because she felt dizzy, and doctors initially thought it was a concussion, but after an MRI was ordered, they realized it was not. After being sent to Yale New Haven Hospital, Danny and her family were informed that she has an inoperable brain tumor in the pons region of her brain. A GoFundMe page has been started to raise $100,000 to help with medical and related costs. At Foreign High, faculty, staff, and students have been wearing blue bracelets, which are being sold to raise money for the Kemp family. Those bracelets are available at Hair Forever in Milford, and for more information, you can call 203-675-3748. And according to the Wilton Bulletin, explorer, international documentary photographer, and Wilton resident Daryl Hawk touched down in the capital city of Havana on April 18th in Cuba and set off on a 2,700-mile quest across Cuba to capture the soul of the once estranged island nation. In Cuba, Hawk spent 2 weeks capturing photos of the people, land, architecture, and essence of cities, and as well as rural regions and the country's diverse coastline. After taking about 5,000 photos, he returned home and spent 3 to 4 weeks organizing them into a presentation called Into the Heart of Cuba, which he will share at the Wilton Library on September 15th. There's a lot more of those amazing photos at wiltonbulletin.com. And in other news, falling on the 15th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, the 2016 Connecticut United motorcycle ride is being held on Sunday, September 11th. Connecticut's largest 9/11 tribute, one of the largest rides in New England, and the largest fundraiser for both fire and law enforcement in the state of Connecticut. Joining them for the event this year from Washington, D.C. is Harold Schautberger, the International General President of the IAFF, who will not only be speaking at the tribute ceremony in Norwalk, but will be riding his motorcycle in the 60-mile motorcade with colleagues from up and down the Northeast coast. He will be joining the governor, both U.S. senators, as well as congressmen and other local officials. Rider attendance this year is expected to reach 5,000, as well as 15,000 spectators lined up along the 10-town 60-mile motorcycle route. You can see some of that in that video there, but you can get a lot more information at ctunitedride.com. We're going to step out for a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking chronic pain with Silver Hill Hospital. A lot of great information coming up after this.
Warm weather, light breezes, boats are in the water. There's no better place to celebrate summer than the Dock Shop. Whether in Darien at 51 Tokenique Road or Westport at 609 Riverside Avenue, the Dock Shop is where you'll find everything you need to kick off summer. From the latest summer apparel to the newest fishing tackle, the Dock Shop will help you get the most out of your next beach day or harbor cruise. At the Dock Shop, you'll find a wonderful selection of items made in the USA and right here in New England, all with a distinct nautical flair. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the coastal lifestyle, this is a unique place to shop. DockShop.com.
A Better View Window Cleaning Plus has been cleaning glass all over Connecticut for over 20 years. They also specialize in cleaning chandeliers, mirrors, skylights, tiles, and will power wash anything that needs cleaning. They hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and are fully insured and bonded. When you deal with a Better View, you're dealing with the best, not the rest. Call today for a free estimate, 203-284-8836, or visit them online, abetterviewcleaning.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune into Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
I'm Frank Granito.
And I'm Donald Ing for the HAN Network.
Tune in to Nutmeg Sports Monday through Wednesday, where we bring you all the top stories for Connecticut sports.
From players and coaches' interviews to expert opinions with local sports editors, no one gets you closer to Connecticut's games than Nutmeg Sports.
Nutmeg Sports, Monday through Wednesday at 2 p.m. on the HAN Network.
We're back on this Tuesday edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski, and the HAN Network and Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan are teaming up throughout this month for National Pain Awareness Month. Roughly 100 million Americans suffer from chronic pain, which is pain that lasts longer than 6 months. That's more than diabetes, heart disease, and cancer combined. And throughout this month, we'll be featuring exclusive interviews with some of the experts at Silver Hill Hospital's Chronic Pain and Recovery Center. Each interview will be tackling a different topic around chronic pain. Today, we're going to be talking about the link between depression and chronic pain with Dr. Chris Cutter. Check it out. Kate Czaplinski for the HAN Network. September is National Pain Awareness Month, and we're here at Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan talking to the experts, talking today about chronic pain and its link to depression. I'm joined in that conversation by Dr. Chris Cutter, who is the program director at the Chronic Pain Recovery Center at Silver Hill. Dr. Cutter, so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, first, talk a little bit about what is chronic pain. Can you define it for us?
Sure. So, in essence, it's suffering. And then we think about pain itself being a sensory and emotional experience that is either real or perceived to the body. But when we think about chronic pain, it's that type of pain lasting 12 weeks or longer. So the way I like to explain it to my patients or the family members thereof is that think about having a smoke alarm in your house. And so it's going off and, there's smoke. Great, it warns me that there's potential danger, might be fire. But so imagine that smoke alarm keeps going on and on and on. And there's just no smoke, there's no fire, and there's really no reason why this thing is still alarming everyone. So it becomes this really strange signal that then we're talking about pain again, like a pain signal keeps firing over and over, even though all the healing is possibly done to an injury. Then we really don't know why it keeps firing like this, as there's possible nerve damage that just lingers. And again, it comes down to this boiling point of they suffer through this endlessly.
And now, how widespread is this problem?
Good question. So we have approximately 100 million Americans suffering from this. And coincidentally, we have billions of money going into the treatment of this. And it's kind of this new emerging field where not many people know how to treat it specifically. And what we'll kind of get into further with the line of questions is the more and more we try to treat it with medications, since we have people kind of going into the ERs saying that, I have a lot of pain, and folks are quite confused why there's so much pain and trying to go to certain experts. Unless you're just starting to go to a chronic pain treatment facility, it's tended to be treated in a short-term fashion, such as a medication. Whereas the only way the technology where we have it right now to treat pain is we have to learn how to manage the pain rather than get rid of the pain. So say this chronic pain is lasting 12 weeks or longer. The pain might be an 8 or a 9, something rather terrible. In order to manage the pain, we learn how to manage at many different levels. You want to get that signal from 9, maybe down to a 5 or a 4, so you can still experience your life and have the quality of life you want. To get rid of it entirely might be unrealistic.
Now let's talk about quality of life and just kind of the impact this could have on somebody's life. What is the link to depression when somebody suffers from chronic pain?
Good question. So we see a lot of different folks come in through our recovery program over here. People would come over here with existing depression, and they would have this unfortunate chronic pain on top of it. And then we have folks that would have chronic pain, and then they would start having these depressive symptoms. And they would basically exhibit the same exact clinical profile between both patients. They would have isolating behaviors, really just different moods of being a little bit labile, aggressive, really grumpy, really sad, but also feeling quite hopeless. So we think about the suffering from chronic pain, that these folks have this sense of hopelessness that this pain will never end. It would bring any of us down to feeling quite low. So it's this huge association that we see most of the people that come in to the Chronic Pain Recovery Center. Even some of the research I'm doing at Yale, we just see depressive symptoms coming in with almost every single patient. And then one thing I tend to notice, which probably we can talk about in a little bit, is we start noticing folks tend to become more and more sedentary the more they have pain. And so normally when we do have pain, the good response that we would have is to rest and lay down, take it easy, and that's actually a really good prescription to, when you have an injury, if you break an ankle, lay off the ankle. But if you have chronic pain, eventually after that ankle has healed and the pain's still firing, you really need to start moving on it. So the more and more sedentary you become, the less and less active you become, and then we start noticing, even with the depression research, the less active you are, the more depressed and more mood problems you start having.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, we know exercise releases endorphins. It can help people. Is that why it's so important maybe in treating chronic pain?
That's definitely one aspect, especially for the mood part. So we're looking for the exercise to release your endogenous endorphins, so the morphine within, if you will. So it will help, but we have to take a look at how to carefully regiment an exercise plan for our chronic pain patients. So we want them to get more strength and more flexibility to surrounding muscles of an area. Say it's a non-specific lower back pain. So if the pain has a lot of injuries and we have a lot of nerves being damaged or discs being damaged, we want all the surrounding muscles to be strong. So we want the core to be strong. This is just an example. There could be pain in different areas of the body. So we would like the abdominals, lower back, chest to be stronger so it could help carry the weight of the injured area. Releasing the endorphins within, that would be a really great segue to talk about mood as well. Thinking how the more and more physical exercise you get, the more body feels like it's receiving a sense of accomplishment. But it also, when it gets to extent, when we feel that type of runner's high, it can release endorphins. The trick is, a lot of our patients are on opiates, and that actually limits the ability for the body to produce its natural endorphins. So it takes quite a while to start experiencing that natural runner's high, but we do notice after time they do get it back, but it just takes quite a bit of persistence. It's not a short fix. This is the marathon fix.
Now, let's talk a little bit about family members. How do they typically react when a loved one suffers from chronic pain?
So we see a lot of different ways of how people react with that. So one is they're really caring. They really like to try to help the family member. They feel quite bad. It's usually when an injury happens. And they understand that their family member, their loved ones, are suffering. Eventually, after a while, they get really tired of hearing it and they get really bored. And eventually it just becomes this white noise in the background. And some family members believe they are faking it. Since there's really no way to track chronic pain, we can't really measure pain receptor firing that accurately. We usually have to just take their word for it. And when we do see people suffering over and over again, they just stop. The family members tend to start withdrawing and stop trusting other family members. So in the beginning, so it's for the most part, I'm not saying for all patients, they tend to, in the beginning, be supportive. A few months later, it's really taxing on the family. It's taxing on every member. Actually, I think I'd like to go into, if it's okay with you, to kind of go, what would be helpful? Please. Okay. So we think about the lifestyle change that this family member has to engage in. And so we think how family members can be useful when they agree, yes, it's chronic pain. So let me see, let me try to be some more supportive of you. We think about this as a chronic pain as a debilitating chronic disease such as diabetes or hypertension, where it takes the entire lifestyle to treat this. So we take a look at physical, social, emotional, and spiritual. Spiritual, if that is a component of strength for a patient, might not be for all patients. But when we take a look at the social component, how they're going to change their life, we try to get the family involved to just get the patients to become much more active, to be supportive of them, and to recognize where the limits, where the patient can go. So a lot of this is getting out of the zone of comfort. So there's a comfort zone that when anybody has pain, they don't want to go past a certain threshold. It's good to try to push yourself a little bit past it and have family members really recognize and understand once the threshold has been passed, it's time to break. It's time to start pacing themselves.
So, well, Dr. Cutter, any other things that you suggest to family members just when approaching someone in their life that suffers from chronic pain?
Yes. So when somebody is having chronic pain, this is actually one of the more important ways to address it. To know sometimes you're talking to the patient and they're being themselves, they're being the person that you care about and love, but sometimes the pain can have a personality of itself. And so we tend to talk about over here is you have your pain personality emerging, and where the person might not realize how they may be reacting and behaving toward others in society and their family members themselves. To understand there's a great deal of patience that comes in with trying to first address somebody while they're in pain and know if they need space, they need a break, and they need to come back to them at a different time. And then when they want to go through it, how to help support them. So what can I do to get you through this? Do you need to take some space? Maybe and kind of recognize the pain behaviors they exhibit, such as grimacing, possibly tearing up. Knowing when to let the patient know they don't have to be a hero to take a break. It's like, now let's take a break. It's time to pace ourselves without trying to infantilize them. There's a lot of dignity that is at stake here. Mm-hmm.
Really great advice. And Dr. Cutter, just so appreciate all the work you're doing here at the Pain Recovery Center.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to be here. We started running the program in a new direction a couple months ago, so we're pretty excited about the new programming coming in. And thanks so much for speaking with me.
Thank you so much. All right, well, you can find out more about our partnership this month with Silver Hill Hospital at HAN.network.